Hello, in this video I'm going to be talking about our early game power generation, how to use it, and any information I feel like might be helpful. Really quickly before we start, I highly recommend you make these engineering goggles because without them you can't see very important information about the machines you're working on. So with them, you can see speed, like the RPM and the stress units of your machines and your power source. So I very highly recommend you make these goggles. The first early game power source I'm going to be talking about is the Waterwheel. You craft it with 8 wood slabs and a large cogwheel in the middle to get yourself a water wheel. To get the water wheel up and running, you basically just do this basic configuration. Just have a water wheel going in the middle and then have water going all around it to make sure it's moving and stuff. This is a pretty optimal way to do it. And with this configuration, you'll be getting about 16 RPM. Rotation speed will affect how fast your machines go, but do be warned, the more rotation speed you go, the more stress it will have on the overall system. And that's where stress units come in. That's kind of like the amount of capacity or power you have. Capacity is a good way. It's just stress units. So it's your capacity in your system, and machines will take up capacity, and the faster the machines are running, the more capacity they require. Having a machine go faster is obviously good because then it'll work faster, but it's going to use up more capacity, and you might need more power generation to fulfill that capacity. Now, I did say this was a decently optimal setup, but there is a way to optimize this further. So currently, with this setup, you max it out at 256 stress units and a speed of 16 RPM. But if you have been to the Nether, if you put soul sand down here and then make sure those 2 blocks are solid water sources, then you'll be getting the true max of 320 stress units, and you'll be getting a speed, and you'll be getting a speed of 20 RPM. Something to keep in mind though is that if you have the water wheel going against the flow of the water, it's gonna decrease its efficiency. It won't be producing as much stress units or as much speed. So even with the maxed out soul sand, it's producing just 12 RPM and its stress units went down to 192 stress units. So that is something to be wary of. Sometimes you might want that to in case you want things to go slower. So that is one way to have things go slower. So you might want that, but just be aware, have the water wheel, it can be a little finicky, but have the water wheel, like the little divots, or I don't know, like the paddles, make sure it's going with the flow, or I don't know, describe it. Like you see how it is here? The flow is going to the right and the paddles are going to the left, basically. And so just make sure that's like that, and you'll be fine. If you have this setup and it's not producing 320 stress units, then you probably have the water wheel facing the wrong way. So keep that in mind. Also, something I forgot to mention with the water wheel is that you can actually place it sideways, and you do something kind of like this and it will generate power. Although with this configuration you can't really do the soul sand thing, so you'll be capped at the 256. The next power source will be the windmill. To craft it, you'll need a windmill bearing, which is just stone, a shaft, and a turntable. A turntable is just a shaft and a wood slab. And once you have the windmill bearing, you're also going to need yourself some sails. You can also use just normal white wool, but it's a little weird how you do it, and that's not how I'm going to explain how to do it. So craft yourself some white sails. I do highly recommend to get yourself like a sheep farm or something going, because without that, the white sails are going to be kind of annoying. But yeah, so white sails, just some sticks, iron nuggets, and the wool. And then you'll be able to do this. So basically you'll place down your generator, and then any block, the block will kind of just stick to the generator. And then once you have your white sails, you kind of just attach it onto the side. It can be a little finicky, and then from here you can just do kind of this. You just right click and it shows a little hologram thing, and you just build it however you want. Any shape technically works, and when you're ready, you right click it and it'll start going. Also, something good to know, you can change the rotation of the windmill with the crate wrench. just hover over it, and then with your scroll wheel you can change the direction. Now with a simple setup like this, it's going to be producing 1024 stress units, and it'll be at a speed of 2 RPM. And so as you can tell, the main difference between the water wheel and the windmill is the windmill has higher potential for stress capacity, where the windmill has higher RPM. You can chain the windmill, so you can just put another and do the water thing again, and it'll just add, it won't add more speed because the speed is maxed out with this configuration at 20, but it'll add more stress capacity. So if you want to do that, that's something good to know. If you want to increase the stress capacity or even the speed of the windmill, it's very simple. You just add more sails. So you could just keep adding them like this and kind of widening out, but sometimes that might get really big and that might take up too much space in that direction. So an alternative you can do, which works, is that you put some super glue in your off-tan. You just craft it with any kind of slime ball thing, an iron sheet and an iron nugget. So you put this off in your offhand, you attach another block and I'll stick it to the middle block, and then from there you can just add more sails, and this will add more stress and speed to the unit. So you see now it's at 2000 stress units and the speed went up to 4 RPM. You can just keep doing this, you can just keep scaling this forward, and you'll have almost like a wind, like tunnel turbine thing, I don't know. But yeah, so if you can't extend too much in this direction, or you're a little limited but you can extend a little more in this direction, this is a good way to get more out of your windmill. Also, similar to the water wheel, the windmills can go sideways as well. So you would just place the block sideways, make sure it's facing up this way, and this will work as well. For the last source of early game energy that I'm aware of, you can use an encased fan facing down into a heat source. To craft it, you're going to need to craft a propeller, which is just 4 iron sheets in an andesite alloy. And then you'll take your propeller and an andesite machine, which is just kinetic mechanisms and andesite casing. You put this into the smithing table and you'll get an encased fan. For the heat source, you can either use fire, a magma block, a campfire, or lava. You just have the fan facing down into it, you give it a redstone signal, and then it'll produce power. It's honestly not that great of power. You get 4 RPM and it produces 64 stress units, so out of all of them, it's pretty bad. But the benefit of this, especially with the magma block one, is that it's a very compact and quick way to set up some power. Like let's say you're working in the Nether, or you're just somewhere that's not your base and you just need something very quick and you don't need that much speed or stress capacity. You just plop down a magma block, a fan, and you're good to go basically. So that's its benefit. I don't really recommend using it outside of, I guess, to have some quick power. Also, something else for me to point out, all these heat sources provide the same speed and stress units. So they all provide 64 stress units and they all provide 4 RPM. So I don't think you should waste your time with lava. That's going to be the most annoying to set this up, or a campfire. Either use fire, like just on netherrack, or a magma block. A magma block would be the easiest, but maybe you don't have a good supply of them, or maybe you just don't want to mine them. So these are the ones I recommend. Don't bother with this, it's not worth it. And so like I mentioned before, this could be a good power source for the Nether. But while we're on that topic for getting power in the Nether, 1, the windmill will just work in the Nether, and then 2, if you want to use your water wheel, you can basically not with you can't use the soul sand though, but basically if you do the old setup, you can use lava and that will actually work and power the water wheel, and it will give out its max 256, obviously without the actual max with the soul sand, but you can't do that with lava. So yeah, so I'm going to talk about speed now, how to increase it, how to decrease it, because that's going to be important for your machine. Sometimes you need something to go faster, sometimes you need something to go slower, and I'll talk about other things that might be related or helpful. So with this water wheel setup, you'd be producing 20 RPM, but what if you want more speed? You need something to go faster. So you'll use a large cogwheel, go it into a small cogwheel, and that will double the speed. And you can repeat this formation up to 3 times until it just won't go faster anymore. And also, friendly reminder, as I said earlier, the faster a machine is running, the more stress units it needs. So the more stress units it will use up. So keep that in mind. And so you do this to go faster, but you basically just do the opposite to go slower. So you do a small cogwheel at the source, and then you have it go into a large cogwheel, and that'll make it go slower. It will half the speed. Now there is an alternate way you can increase and decrease the speed without the cogwheels, and there's a reason you might want to do this, because with the cogwheels you kind of have to do this diagonal nonsense, which sometimes you might actually want. But if you want to decrease the speed and it be more of a side to side kind of action going on, then you want to use the chain drives in the adjustable chain gear shift. And so to increase the speed, you're going to want to put the chain gear shift, the one with the red square, at the source, and then you put the chain drive next to it. So right now it's going the same speed, but when you power the gear shift, it will increase the speed, doubling the speed that the chain drive is outputting. And you can repeat this as well. And similar to the cogwheels, you basically just do the opposite to go slower. So you have the encased chain drive at the source instead, and then you have the gear shift not at the source. And so you just power that, and now this is going slower. So now this is going at 10 RPM while this is going at 20 RPM. So over here I have an example of maxing out the speed of the water wheel. So I did the cogwheel thing 3 times to max it out at its speed of 160. Now the thing though is that for it to be at 160, you're going to need at least 2 of these maxed out cogwheels to give you enough stress units to support the 160 speed. Because if you just have the 1 cogwheel, that won't be enough stress units for it. And so yeah, so it will start at 20, it doubles at 40, then it doubles at 80, and then it doubles again at 160. Now here's the exact same setup, but instead of using the cogwheels, I'm using the chain drives and chain gear shifts. And it does the exact same thing, but it's just a little different. And so here we got the 20 RPM going to 40, going to 80, going to 160. And like I've shown before, you can do this exact same thing but kind of reverse it to make your speed go slower. I'm gonna now talk about how to manipulate the power and all that, and how to transfer, like get it places, all that stuff. And so very simple. This is just a creative generator, but just treat it as any power output or whatever. So this is just our power source output. And to extend the power to just make it go along, you can just use these shafts. Obviously you got your cogwheels. You can transfer power just through the cogwheels. Now when you go to one cogwheel to another, it will change its rotation, so keep that in mind. With the large cogwheels like this, you can change it from going side to side to be more vertical instead of horizontal. You can achieve the same thing by using a vertical gearbox to change it from horizontal to vertical. And with a normal gearbox, this will allow you to make turns. Something to note though with the gearboxes is that they will change the rotational direction going in a straight line. So from the input to the output, the rotation is changed, and even on this side, both sides are rotating in different directions. With machines that get powered directly by the cogwheels, they can also themselves power another similar type of machine. So if I put another one next to it, it will power it. And just like the cogwheels themselves, they will change their rotational direction. If you have 2 belts like this that you want to go in the same direction, you can either do a couple different methods. You can either connect another belt like this off the side, and then it'll go in the same direction. Or you can use the encased chain drives, which will do pretty much a very similar thing. And 2 very helpful blocks is the clutch and the gear shift. With the clutch, if you give it a redstone signal, it will stop. It'll act like an on and off switch. It'll basically stop any rotation power happening coming out of it. And so with this can be a way to turn on and off certain parts of your machines or contraptions or whatever. To craft one, you just need 2 redstone and a set casing and some shafts, so it's not too expensive assuming you have redstone. And with the gear shift, when you give it a redstone signal, it'll change the rotational direction. So right now this is going counterclockwise, and when I give this a signal, signal. Now the drill is going clockwise. To craft the gear shift, you're going to want 2 redstone, 2 cogwheels, and an andesite casing in this formation. One last thing I would like to mention, by combining the output of the water wheel and the output of the windmill, you can get both the speed of the water wheel and the capacity of the windmill. I hope this video made sense for you or was helpful in some way. I don't know. I'm no expert at this. I'm still learning the crate mod and specifically this mod pack. So as I'm learning and I feel like I learned some helpful stuff, I'm going to be making videos like these maybe and stuff. And if you want to watch me play through the pack, which I'm doing, I stream it every now and then over at my Twitch. So if you want to catch me playing on the crate mod, I might be streaming it there. Unless you're watching this video like 5 years out from this video's release, I'm probably not playing the mod pack then. I would think I would be done with it by then. But yeah, I'll see you later. Bye.